how's your preparation going on in general, especially those who are preparing for 21? Fine. Yeah. Time management is one issue that everybody faces. So best best possible solution is to not procrastinate and finish the lecture then and there itself. Okay. Moment we start procrastinating na, things start building up, becomes difficult for us to handle later on. जीएस में सोसाइटी के लिए क्या पढ़ना है? जीएस में सोसाइटी के लिए क्या पढ़ना है? देखो, जीएस में there are some topics which you can do with help of sociology, but both domains are very different, and that is why first thing that you have to do before reading anything on GS, Indian society, I'm not recommending you any book or something like that, okay, because I cannot. सीधी सी बात है. So what you can do before you read anything on GS, Indian society, first you should go through previous year questions. You will get a fair idea about which area holds maximum relevance and what are the kind of questions that are coming from that area. For example, in GS, Indian society, secularism, communalism, globalization, these are three hot topics. इस पे आता ही आता है, इन तीन पे तो आता ही आता है. तीनों एक साथ नहीं आएंगे तो कभी दो आ जाएंगे, बट ऐसा नहीं होगा कि इन तीन में से एक ही आया है. इन तीन में से दो तो आते ही हैं. तो आप पहले प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस देखो. First you go through previous year questions, you analyze the trend, accordingly you give importance to those areas. We cannot study everything, nor we should. ठीक है, तो book तो I cannot suggest you, okay, for multiple reasons. If possible, if you have notes of any coaching or any friend or any topper, you may refer. मतलब उसके लिए इतना for GS ना, we don't have to think so much. GS is very dry. उसमें बस आपको डेफिनेशन लिखनी है, फीचर्स ऐसे दिखाने, डायमेंशन जिसको बोलते हैं लोग, ऐसे बॉक्स बना के ऐसे एरोज निकाल दो 10-15 और भर दो पेज को. यही होता है जीएस. बाकी तो ऐसा है कि रेस्ट एवरीथिंग whatever is there in our syllabus sociology, okay, there are few things that will help you. In fact, many things will help you as well to understand the question in a better fashion. That's how sociology will help you to understand the question in a better fashion. But in terms of knowledge, sociology is not going to be so much helpful. I mean, it will be lot of helpful, but you will have to refrain yourself from writing those things. You would know what you would have written if the same question would have come in sociology. You know how what you would have written, but despite knowing all those things, you would not be writing those. तो वो एक थोड़ा रिफ्रेन आपको करना पड़ेगा वो चीजें लिखने से. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. पेपर 2 भी कोई हेल्प नहीं करता है जीएस इंडियन सोसाइटी में. I mean, see, fact is the GS Indian society and GS Indian history and GS Indian geography or world geography and sociology. These are four different subjects. Simply. I mean, I don't want you to think like this that that is society, so it is sociology. I mean, sociology is not society. I mean, it is not that. It is not that at all. Uh, and I hope you must also have realized by now the way we think, the way sociologists think, is not what is required for you to write in GS. GS may you have to be very dry. Dry in the sense you cannot be confident about yourself just because you have read sociology so you can tackle. I mean, this is one advice that anybody can give you. Anybody will tell you, भाई you are a student of sociology, तुम्हारे लिए तो बड़ा आसान है. ये ऐसा नहीं होता. Just see, for a student of political science, paper 2 of Indian of GS, paper 2 of GS is equally common to a student of political science and a sociology. It does not matter. That is completely different knowledge. Different kind of writing it requires, and different kind of conceptualization it requires. It has no link at all. No, GS2 has no link with political science. GS1 Indian society has no link to Indian social or sociology. Let's be very clear here. Okay. The only thing where optionals help you is not GS. Only thing where optional help you is essay. GS में it is not going to help you. What I taught you in secularism, I made that table, Indian and Western secularism. That was GS. But what I did after that, Ashish Nandi, T.N. Madan, Partha Chatterjee, that is not GS. Secularism legitimizes discrimination done by the state to the religious communities. This is not you are going to write in GS. The Western package, which includes nation building, developmentalism, are new opium of the masses. This is what Ashish Nandi says. Are you going to write this in GS? No. कोई लिंक नहीं है सोशियोलॉजी और इंडियन सोसाइटी का. ठीक है. Let us now understand ये मैं जानबूझ के बोल रहा हूं, पता है. I'm voluntarily, I'm intentionally saying that there is no link between, so that you actually study GS, Indian society, and not live in this illusion that you do not need to study because you have done sociology. I really want you to study it as if it is a different subject. Do not take anything for granted in this examination. Okay, every subject requires different approach. Okay. Using manifest and latent analysis, discuss prevalence of corruption in Indian society. Ten marks. Try to think of as many points as possible. Okay. As many points as possible. You know, when you will be writing answer to this question, you will automatically realize that if the question comes to you in GS, prevalence of corruption in Indian society, you would not be writing the same thing automatically. I mean, you will become self disciplined, to use Foucault's notion of disciplinary power. This knowledge will automatically regulate you. You would yourself not be writing those things, and you would, by the end of this course, have realized that no, we cannot write this. Okay. Using manifest latent analysis, discuss prevalence of corruption in Indian society. 5 minutes. पार्था दास नहीं है आदर्श, पार्था चटर्जी है. Hinduism has been reformed unequally. नहीं नहीं, दोनों सेम लाइंस पे कैसे हो गए? वो एकदम अलग बात बोल रहा है, एकदम अलग. बताता हूँ मैं इस क्वेश्चन को, एक बार इस क्वेश्चन को लिख लो, मैं बताता हूँ. Let us start discussion on this question. Very easy question. First, we write manifest. Tell me, what are the points that you have written? Manifest function of corruption. Anticipated, which you can anticipate easily. What will happen? Lower trust of public in state, brings efficiency, rationalization, promotes further corruption, malfunction, wane away from problem easily without proceeding, low development process, prioritize the work. पहला तो सीधा सही है. Drainage of public resources. Drainage of public resources. That is manifest, anticipated. Okay. What else can be anticipated? Breach of rules, breach of code of conduct, and rules. Abuse of power. Abuse of power. Favoritism. Okay. ठीक है, more than enough. 4 points, more than enough. Okay. Now, in fact, yes, loss of public trust, that is also manifest. Okay. Now comes latent, which is more important. Save time, compensation for low wage of work, promotes terrorism. Greasing of bureaucracy. देखो, latent देखो. Rise of anti-corruption movement. This is latent. That was not anticipated. Anti-corruption movement जो हुआ था, was it anticipated? वो हुआ इतना बड़ा 2012 में, ऑल इंडिया लेवल का. Rise of anti-corruption movement. Change in power structure. कांग्रेस से बीजेपी आ गया. बीजेपी उसके बाद ही तो आया. ठीक है. थर्ड, राइज ऑफ कैरिज्मेटिक लीडर्स. लैटेंट ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. राइज ऑफ कैरिज्मेटिक लीडर्स. हु आर द कैरिज्मेटिक लीडर्स? करप्शन के बाद ही तो अन्ना हजारे आया. He gave us one hope. India will be free of corruption. Charismatic leader. Arvind Kejriwal. Okay. वो आया. And what happened? Movement died. But charisma routinized. And we now had Aam Aadmi Party. समझे कि नहीं समझे? न्यू पॉलिटिकल पार्टी पैदा हो गई जो कभी थी ही नहीं. Look at the question when it was asked. It was asked in the year 2014. This question was asked in year 2014. That means current affairs का तो रोल होता है. ठीक है. Because the movement happened in year 2012. The repercussion of the movement was visible in the year 2014 itself when party changed. तो इसलिए पूछा. ये भी लेटेंट फंक्शन ही है कि यूपीएससी ने क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया उसके ऊपर, अनएंटिसिपेटेड था ये. बट ये लिखना नहीं है ऐसे. ये देखो, राइज ऑफ सिविल सोसाइटी. What is the meaning of civil society? You as a student of GS also must be preparing or must have heard about multiple indexes that are calculated that we have at world level released by different agencies. So there are multiple indexes even on corruption level. Transparency International is one organization that comes up with report. Okay, so these are the kind of agencies which had actually now gained visibility. They were hidden. 2012 से पहले nobody knew about, or in fact we did not know about. Okay, but these agencies actually started gaining hold in the public domain. People had actually started giving importance to corruption as one measure to see the efficiency of the state. Before that, corruption was never seen as a measure to see efficiency of the state. Unanticipated. Okay, ट्रांसपेरेंसी इंटरनेशनल आज की डेट में हाउ डू वी जस्टिफाई रूल ऑफ अवर करंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर? हाउ डू वी जस्टिफाई? वी से अरे एटलीस्ट ही इज नॉट करप्ट. ये बोलते हैं कि नहीं बोलते हैं? ये बोलते हैं कि नहीं बोलते हैं? यही हम बोलते हैं, एटलीस्ट ही इज नॉट करप्ट, ही इज नॉट एनकरेजिंग करप्शन. But why did we start speaking like this? I mean, since when corruption became a measure to see someone's efficiency? It was only after the anti-corruption movement. These are the latent functions. ठीक है? Can lead to their surveillance. हाँ, सिविल सोसाइटी और जो भी हैं, जितनी बॉडीज हैं, बेसिकली दे आर डूइंग सर्वेलेंस ओनली व्हेन दे आर रिलीजिंग इंडेक्सेस. इट इज लाइक मॉनिटरिंग different states on their performance, whether they are corrupt or not. Okay. It may also encourage unanticipated consequence. It may also encourage rise of tax havens. Tax havens. और विजिबिलिटी ऑफ टैक्स हेवंस. नहीं नहीं, डीमोनेटाइजेशन नहीं, वो तो बहुत ही फार फेस्ट हो जाएगा, एकदम फार फेस्ट हो जाएगा बहुत ज्यादा. आई मीन अगर वो आपको लिखना है तो आपको बहुत कॉन्टेक्चुअलाइज करना पड़ेगा करप्शन के आर्गुमेंट को कि रिसेंटली हुआ ऐसे ऐसे, इसलिए आई मीन वो आपको थोड़ा नैरेटिव एस्टेब्लिश करना पड़ेगा, तब आप कंफर्टेबली लिख सकते हो, अदरवाइज वो फार फेस्ट लगेगा. हाँ, लोकपाल. Yes, you can say. Lokpal is basically a body that is supposed to have surveillance. तो सर्वेलांस में आ जाएगा लोकपाल. ठीक है. कोमोडिटी फेट नहीं नहीं नहीं, ये फोर्सफुल है, मतलब there is nothing commodity fetishism about it. Class inequality increase बोल सकते हो. Can perpetuation poverty. Sensitization of corruption. Sensitization of corruption को मत यूज करना कभी भी. इट इज नॉट अ कॉन्सेप्ट. ये सिर्फ हवाबाजी है कौशिक बासु की. ठीक है, ऐसा कोई कॉन्सेप्ट एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है एकेडमिक्स में. ये ऐसे ही जैसे हमारा मन करता है ना कि हम स्टेटस कुछ भी डाल देते हैं व्हाट्सएप पे, इंस्टाग्राम पे, मन कर दिया कुछ भी बना दिया. उसने वैसे ही कुछ भी बनाया था. इट इज नॉट अ कॉन्सेप्ट. अश्विनी, एलियनेशन. एलियनेशन हाउ? You, what we can say is it is more like that chain. If we want to apply Marx, corruption is the result of man chasing money, right? Corruption is a result of man chasing money. M1C, M2. Okay. So money is the end. It is not a means anymore. So when corruption happens, it shows that we are money chasing animals. So which vindicates Marxist idea of M1C, M2. Okay. That way we can say demoralize public. Yes, we can write this that it demoralizes honest public servants. Misuse of public. It may even develop uh, apathetic attitude of the common man towards bureaucracy. Okay, that is also unanticipated. They may start looking down at bureaucracy. For example, policeman would not be just a policeman to a common man. Policeman would be an agent which takes bribe in the name of law. Okay, so we would start rating policemen as if अरे ये तो पैसे वैसे लेने हैं, इनको पैसे के चक्करों में ये सब कर रहे हैं. This is how we start looking at officials. हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल कर यस लॉस ऑफ पब्लिक ट्रस्ट ही है वो एक तरीके से. अरब स्प्रिंग हाँ वो रिया जैन उसमें आ जाएगा. चेंज ऑफ पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रक्चर मैंने बोला ना. अरब स्प्रिंग उसमें डाल सकते हो. रीइंफोर्सेस मटेरियलिज्म. हाँ लिख सकते हो. थोड़ा सा ये स्पिरिचुअल सा हो जाएगा बट लिख सकते हो. ठीक है. So this was all about manifest latent. Okay, now let us discuss the last topic, fundamentalism. And if you guys have gone through notes for the test also, okay, for tomorrow's test, you would realize that now when you start reading those notes, they are giving you different meanings now. Some different things are coming in your head when you are looking at the same thing. You start looking at the same thing now through different perspectives. So it is a natural thing that is happening. And it's very great if it is happening. Okay. The more you get confused, the more better it is for you. Okay. Nothing should be clear. If everything is clear, then there is garbad. टेस्ट का टाइम जो वही है हम वो उसको थोड़ा शिफ्ट कर दिया उसको. It will be uploaded at 10 a.m. now, 10 to 6, something like this. Okay, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So what I wanted to ask you is, if we ask this question to Paul Feyerabend, since I believe you have revised as well, Paul Feyerabend, if we ask this question on religion and science, what will Paul Feyerabend say? On religion and science, what will Paul Feyerabend say? Yes, both are same. He will say both are same. Why? Because science is also based on intuition, anything goes principle. Okay, and then if that is the case, there is no point in placing science in the hierarchy of knowledge. Okay, there is no point in giving so much importance to science over religion when both of them are based on anything goes. Okay, so therefore, to fair bend, religion and science are equal. Okay, if I ask this question to Popper, what will he say? Religion is closed. Why? Religion cannot be falsified. It is closed. It is not open to criticism. Therefore, it is closed. Okay. Science is open. System. Religion is closed system. Science is open system. Why science is open system? Because science is open to criticism. And science means provisional knowledge. Religion means absolute knowledge. है तो है. Science कभी scientists would never say this is what the absolute reality is. Scientists are always engaged in finding new things to invalidate the past. They are always inquisitive. Okay. This is what the scientist is. Science is always open system, open to criticism and ever changing, because scientific knowledge is provisional. Religious knowledge is absolute. How can it be changing? Okay, and therefore it is never open to criticism as well. Kuhn. What will Thomas Kuhn say on religion and science? हाँ ठीक है, ये बोल सकते हैं कि Kuhn will say that religion was dominant paradigm at one point of time. Today science is, but within science also we have different paradigms which are dominant and some which are not. Okay, but instead of those things, let us simply argue Kuhn is actually clearly criticizing Popper. Why? Because Kuhn say neither religion is closed nor science is open. Religion is equally open and science is equally closed. Because we have concept of religious reforms that shows religion is open. And we also have the notion of some knowledge that was not accepted easily. In fact, whenever any scientific knowledge comes at the surface, it is not easily acceptable to the community. It takes time. It has taken a lot of time for people to reject Newton. Science is also conservative. Okay, it will take many years, many tests before it reject Newton. It is also conservative. Okay, that way. This is what Kuhn says. Anyhow, let us now start with fundamentalism. What is fundamentalism? See, fundamentalism is nothing but unwavering commitment to extreme set of ideology. Unwavering commitment to an extreme ideology. Okay, this is what we call as fundamentalism. Okay, unwavering commitment to extreme ideology. What does it mean? It means that, for example, if I believe that this is what the reality is, it is absolute reality, there is no point in having discussion over it, there is no point in having debate over it, or there is no point in having experiments over it. It is simply absolute reality. If I'm not malleable enough, okay, not open enough to accept another version of reality, then I'm fundamentalist. Because I'm extremely committed to one ideology, not ready to switch ideology or to be open at all to a critique. Understood? Now, if instead of ideology, now I write religious belief or religion or religious belief, then what do we call it? We call it religious fundamentalism. हाँ हाँ, तभी तो मैंने बोला यस. How it is different from? No, no, it is conservative only. Fundamentalism is conservative only. Conservatism, what is conservatism? See, I am conservative. Okay, not open to change, any sort of change. Then I am fundamentalist. I am fundamentalist. Okay. If I am conservative about religion, then I am religious fundamentalist. This is what I am explaining, that fundamentalism is not only religious, because what is the problem? When you utter this word fundamentalism, क्या आता है दिमाग में? काले कपड़े पहने हुए कुछ एक ग्रुप आता है माइनॉरिटी का, बंदूक लिए हुए हैं, वो तालिबानी जिसको हम बोलते, ये आता है दिमाग में. ये रॉन्ग है. वो नहीं होता है फंडामेंटलिज्म. वो है, वो एक फॉर्म है, एक छोटा सा फॉर्म है. लार्जर पिक्चर बहुत बड़ी है. दैट इज जस्ट वन फॉर्म. ओके. Unwavering commitment to extreme ideology, and that ideology could be anything, not just religion. Remember this. Suppose if I do not accept that there can be any other gender than male and female, only two genders are there, this is not gender, they should not be given recognition. If I'm not open to acceptance of third gender, I'm fundamentalist. I'm fundamentalist. तभी मैंने बोला वो बंदूक काले कपड़े उसको छोड़ दो. वो कॉमन सेंस है, कॉमन सेंस. और सोशियोलॉजी और कॉमन सेंस में जमीन और आसमानों का फर्क है. ठीक है. एंड दैट इज नोन एज जेंडर फंडामेंटलिज्म. जेंडर फंडामेंटलिज्म और सेक्सुअल फंडामेंटलिज्म. ओके. सपोज आई से, if you do not accept the command of our leader, then you are not nationalist. To accept his command is nationalism. There was a point when Indra was India. So if you are against Indra, you are against India. What is this? This is also fundamentalism. Political fundamentalism. Many people still follow Newton, not accept Einstein's scientific fundamentalism. If science do not change, if science remains conservative and do not switch to new paradigm, then science is also conservative. This is what Thomas Kuhn is saying now. Fundamentalist. This is why I am saying, when you use this word fundamentalism, be open. Be completely open. Do not restrict yourself to religion and within religion only to Islam. something that media portrays every time. Okay, this is what cultural hegemony is. The dominant ideas have been accepted as common sense by us. And those dominant ideas were created by civil society. Media is part of civil society. Media created those categories in your head that fundamentalism means those ISIS and those Al Qaeda. Nothing else. Fundamentalism is. You have accepted that as common sense. Okay, उसको नहीं मानना, common sense नहीं है, sociology अलग है. ठीक है? Now, so I hope this is clear to you. Okay. Now, I'll talk about features of fundamentalism. Features of fundamentalism. Features of fundamentalism. What was Nazism, Germany, Hitler? Fundamentalist ideology. Nazism is a fundamentalist ideology. Fascism is fundamentalist ideology. Because these are those ideologies which do not accept change. Democracy is open to change. Remember this? Democracy is open to change. Because democracy came as a result of wanting to have change in the political structure. So democracy is always open to changes because the meaning of democracy is rule of people. So whatever people say, we will accept. If people say that this party should rule, we will accept. Okay, it's not that someday party will stop accepting the command of people. If parties stop accepting what people are saying, then fundamentalism comes. Okay, so unwavering commitment to extreme ideology is fundamentalism. Now, features, let us understand what is features. Now, what I'll do is for our discussion, we will limit ourselves to religious form only. And after this, I will discuss other forms of fundamentalism. But since we are dealing with fundamentalism under religion and society, so primarily we will stick ourselves to religious fundamentalism and then talk about other forms so that you get holistic picture. Okay. Now, first feature, literal interpretation of the text. Literal interpretation of the text. Just a second. Yes. So, literal interpretation of the text. What does it mean? As I told you yesterday also, when you start literally believing in the religious text, the ideas that are given in the religious text, if you start literally believing in those ideas, then you are fundamentalist. That means, suppose in Vedas, it is given that Brahmins came from the mouth of Brahma. So when we start believing it as real, then we are fundamentalist. Because if you start accepting it as real, you are not open to change like democracy. Understood? You will always give privilege to Brahmins only because you believe that they came from the mouth of Brahma, so they are superior. Okay, and democracy is about equality. Similarly, if Christianity says Jesus was born to Virgin Mary, okay, mother of Jesus, if we start accepting it as absolute reality, we will never be open to changes. Okay, what sort of changes? The changes that we today take for granted in the modern times will not be acceptable to religion. Okay, some of those changes I am going to talk about. Some of those changes are those changes which we take for granted today, but we do not accept that they are not acceptable to religious organizations which really believe in the interpretation of the text. They go in their everyday life, they organize their life with the help of religious text. Okay, like for example, in Islam there is a text, Shariat law. Shariat is one law, set of laws which govern our everyday life. So if you start believing in it literally whatever it is written, if you start believing in it, then you would not be open to change. Okay, any sort of change. So first thing that we have to remember is that literal interpretation of the text is one prime most important feature of the fundamentalism. Okay, second is charismatic leadership. Charismatic leadership. Okay, you talk about any fundamentalist group or organization, it is created by a charismatic leader who is believed to have possessed certain extraordinary quality, someone who can help the masses. Help the masses. Okay, this is what one of the feature of fundamentalism is. Okay, charismatic leadership. For example, if you know Osama bin Laden, charismatic leadership. Okay, Al Qaeda, or there are some people like Dayanand Saraswati, charismatic leader. Okay, Veer Savarkar, charismatic leader. Fundamentalist also he was. Veer Savarkar, Golwalkar. Okay, not open to changes. Abhinav Bharat, yes. Okay. Then third, they reject religious pluralism. They reject religious pluralism. What does it mean? It means that they believe that their religion is telling them absolute knowledge about the world and other religions are ignorant. They possess the absolute knowledge, their religion has given them absolute knowledge of the world. Other religions are falsifying masses, spreading false rumors in the name of religion. Okay, this is what their belief is. So, like for example, Dayanand Saraswati was of the same nature. He believed Hinduism is the perfect religion. Okay, and other religions are not. Any fundamentalism, as I told you, unwavering commitment to extreme ideology, in the sense not open to change. Reject religious pluralism. Fourth, they consider themselves as guardian of religion. Guardian of religion. Guardian of religion. What is the meaning of guardian of religion here? These are those people who believe that due to modernity, remember this is very important point, and this is also something that will explain the whole essence of fundamentalism. Modern ideas have actually corrupted lifestyle of the people. Corrupted lifestyle of the people. Just think like your grandfather who is not happy with the present lifestyle that you are leading. These are those people who are not happy with any modern change. For example, the notion of granting equal status to transgenders, they would not be happy with it. Now this is but modern idea. To give equal citizenship or status to transgender is a modern idea. Individual rights. These people would not accept it. Secondly, pornography. If you watch porn, or if you produce porn, or if you commercialize the so-called sacred act of human being, that is sex, if you commercialize it, that is part of modern idea. Okay, completely open, it's our choice. Okay, I became porn star out of my choice. It's my fundamental right, bhai. Whatever I want to. Who are you to tell me what should I become? That's my choice. These people would not accept it. They would not accept pornography. ये क्या हुआ? They would not accept pornography. Thirdly, imagine a person, a woman, who wants to abort her child. Abortion. Abortion is something that is not permissible. According to strict religious interpretation, abortion is considered sin. But abortion is our fundamental right. Okay, but also there is, if you are following current affair, I hope you know this, that there is one bill which came recently, February itself, Feb or March, okay, which has now become an act, which has actually stipulated the time in which you can safely abort, beyond which you cannot. Okay, so science has given us this much of freedom, and our individual rights has also given us this much of freedom that we can abort. Religious people would not accept it. Understood? So basically, religion do not accept modern changes because it believes that modernity has corrupted individuals. Conservative, as I told you, it is conservative. Okay. So, and therefore they say that modernity has watered down religion. Therefore, we shall, as guardian of religion, restore the dignity of religion that has been lost in the hands of modernity. Understood? Okay. This is also one of the reasons why they, although I'll explain you many examples also, okay, I'll give you some more examples, real life examples as well, but after some features. First you need to understand some features. Okay, so now next feature, write down, it is also very interesting feature. See, these are those people who would not accept even 3-parent baby or the idea of surrogacy. You are commercializing your womb. Surrogacy is nothing but commercialization of human body, womb. That is not acceptable to religious organizations, specifically those who go with literal interpretation of the text. Okay. So if you literally interpret the text, of course, in those times there was no concept of surrogacy or such technology that can aid surrogacy. So of course they would, talk about child born to a mother and there is no other. But in surrogacy we have other, the third one. Okay, with the help of whom even the infertile people can have a baby. This was obviously something that could not be envisaged in those times. So, but if you start interpreting that as real, you would not be accepting the changes which are happening in real time today. अरे यार ये सब तो बकवास है। भीम अर्जुन कौन सा 3 पेरेंट बेबी, ये तो सब ऐसे कहानियां होती हैं, ये तो मिथ होती है, मिथ। इसको नहीं मानना हमने, हम यूपीएससी वाले बच्चे हैं, ठीक है। फिफ्थ, they make use of modern technology. Make use of modern technology. They make use of modern technology. Okay. Although I will also deal with some of the things about Mahabharata and Ramayana when I will teach you paper 2. There we have to deal with one theory, one school of thought called as Indology. Indology. Okay. It is about the ancient Sanskritic texts which clearly lay out our traditions and customs. Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vedas. Okay. And which clearly lay out our traditions. Our का मतलब यहाँ क्या है? Hindu. Okay. So there are many issues also with those texts. Mahabharata and Ramayana clearly legitimize rule of Hindu emperor. Latent function. Rule of Hindu emperor, that India should be ruled by Hindu. This is legitimized by these texts. A woman should be the one. A woman, when you read about Sita, the ideal notion of women is coming from Ramayana. This is what a woman should be like. Okay, and Ramayana has also legitimized adultery. Man could roam around freely and not be accountable to women is legitimized by Ramayana. 14 साल बाहर रहो, कुछ मत बोलो कहां थे. This is legitimized by Ramayana. Adultery. So when you start looking at those texts through these perspectives ना, एक अलग reality बाहर आती है. ठीक है? Make use of modern technology. This is also one feature of fundamentalism. You would see these are those people who use television, internet, WhatsApp, modern weapons to spread their ideas. They are against modernity, see, but they are not against modern technology. Modern technology is the result of same modernity only. So they are using technology, modern, to spread hatred against the idea of modern. कितनी बेवकूफी है. Next feature, they oppose modernity. Oppose modernity. Okay, they are highly conservative. Write down, they are highly conservative and propose to change. They are highly conservative and propose to change contemporary liberal pluralistic society, contemporary liberal pluralistic society into a conservative and traditional society. Into a conservative and traditional society. Achha, now I will ask you a very basic question. On one hand, we are saying conservative. On the other hand, we are also writing proposing change. कुछ कंफ्यूजन तो नहीं लगी ना इसमें? ये तो बेसिक चीज है. If you remember, डी बोनाल्ड डी माइस्टर एक्सट्रीम कंजर्वेटिव्स, वो भी तो चेंज की बात करते हैं. वहां वापस जाओ. तो इसलिए कंजर्वेटिव का मतलब स्टेटस को मेंटेन करना तो है. ओके, कंजर्वेटिव्स स्टेटस कोएस्ट. ओके, बट दे कैन ऑल्सो प्रपोज चेंज. बट वो चेंज होएगा बैक टू द पास्ट. ओके, हाँ, रिवाइवलिस्ट. यस, रिवाइवलिस्ट. Okay, so now these are the features of fundamentalism. Okay, these are the features of fundamentalism. One more feature you can write: legitimize patriarchy. Legitimize patriarchy. That is also a feature of fundamentalism. These are the 7 features that you have to remember. ठीक है, 7 features. Now let me give you some examples of fundamentalist. First, I'll start with classical example. Then I'll deal with some modern ones. Okay. Have you read Iranian Revolution? Iranian Revolution. No. ठीक है. See, I'll explain you Iranian Revolution in 3 minutes very simply. क्या हुआ था? What happened? In 1920s and 30s, 1930s basically, 1930s, there was a ruler called as Shah, S-H-A-H, okay, who was installed in Iran, and he was backed up by America. It was basically a propaganda, okay, supported by America, installed by America in Iran, amongst those people only. He was Iranian only, Shah. Okay, what was the objective of Shah? What was told to Shah by America? That you have to introduce new, modern, liberal, democratic ideas in your society. We will give you 1 crore, 2 crore, 3 crore dollars or whatever. ऐसा बोला नहीं, बट मैं समझाने के लिए बोल रहा हूं. ठीक है. The objective of Shah, 1930s मान लो आप, Shah, Iranian ruler, okay, backed by USA, backed by USA, because you know that 1930s was a period of anomy in the global politics. Anomy in the global politics. World War II was about to happen. World War One, the repercussion of World War, the world had already seen. 1930 was also a period when global depression had come in US. It was a period of chaos, anomie. And America wanted to spread its ideas to as many pockets as possible. To as many pockets. Basically, it was preparing market, a bigger market even than the Americans. Beyond Americans, it was preparing a market. Not just for the marketable goods, but all for the cultural goods. Democracy, America as a democracy was preparing consumerists. Okay. People who can be Americanized. People who would have orientation towards West and not be looking down. Okay. At the Western ideas or modern ideas. So this was the period. What happened? Before the rule of Shah, the kind of society Iran was highly based on religious order and patriarchal. That means before the rule of Shah, there was no concept of gender equality. In the sense, women were not given education. Women were supposed to put on or be limited to specific dress code. She could not be wearing anything beyond the dress code instructed to them by a religious order. Okay, so therefore, traditional way of life. Also, it was theocracy. Rule of religion, basically anything, whatever you can see before French Revolution, that was there before Iranian Revolution. This was the kind of Iranian society we had. Okay, traditional society, not having any modern idea. This Shah was installed by America in 1930s to spread modern ideas. Which means now this Iran will have what? Iran will have clubs, bars, okay, disco, Western lifestyle, casino, सब कुछ Western lifestyle, equality to women, okay, Western food and dress. Education also no more theological, education also modern. That means physics, chemistry, maths, all those things, critical thinking, all those things. Now, what happened? Just like in French Revolution, we saw after these changes, we saw extremely conservative people emerging in response to these modern changes. Similarly, in Iran, extremely conservative person emerged to counter these changes. And the name of that extremely conservative person, just like in France we had D. Bonald D. Meister, in Iran we had Ayatollah Khomeini. Ayatollah Khomeini countered these changes. And this happened in 1979. 1979 Iranian Revolution, we call it. 1979. Okay. And what happened? All these modern changes were destroyed. That means bars were looted. जितने बार खुले थे, डिस्को खुले थे, सब उनको तोड़ फोड़ भी कर दिया, वेंडलिज्म, तहस नहस कर दिया. whichever girl had attained modern education was again confined to the private sphere. He was again asked to put on the same burqa or veil. Okay, no longer given agency to express herself. No more Western food, traditional lifestyle. Again, back to Quran. Back to Quran. No more science. Understood? Iranian Revolution. ठीक. Now, what is Ayatollah Khomeini? Who is he? He is revivalist. He is fundamentalist. Now the question is, how these two are different from one another? I told you yesterday, fundamentalism is one form of revivalism. कल मैंने बताया था रिवाइवलिज्म के टाइप्स होते हैं. One of those type is fundamentalism. Okay, fundamentalism. And the very unique feature that differentiates fundamentalism from revivalism, which is very big term, revivalism is very big term. Okay, if you really want to differentiate between these two, remember one thing. Fundamentalists are generally recognized as those people who are fighting to claim power. Power. It is more of power struggle. This is the only thing which differentiates fundamentalists from revival. You may revive religion for multiple reasons. That is not limited only to have power. But fundamentalism are those who want to attain power. Think about ISIS. ISIS, they want to have power over the large span of that territory. Large swathe of territory, not span. Okay, large swathe of that territory. They want to have rule on that territory. They want to establish caliphate. Okay, revive the same tradition and establish their rule. They are fighting for power. Understood? Ayatollah Khomeini, revivalist, he is definitely, but fundamentalist also because again, whatever he did, the motive was to gain power. Therefore, fundamentalism also. Okay. Now, this is what we call as religious fundamentalism. Now we will understand what are the causes. Causes of fundamentalism. Causes. Now, causes are equally important. Okay. And because there are many different perspectives on causes as well. Okay. For example, Steve Bruce and Anthony Giddens. They believe that fundamentalism is a response to modernization, secularization, and cosmopolitanism. Cosmopolitanism. Fundamentalism is a response to modernization, secularization, cosmopolitanism. If you try to push religion away from the your everyday life through the front door. It will get back to your life through the back door. किसने बोला था? Modernization actually was a critique to the old conservative traditional ideas. But modernization in itself, the unanticipated consequence in itself is giving rise to fundamentalism. ये तो cycle है, cycle. Modernity came as a response to religion, religion again reviving as a response to modernity. Understood? For example, write down, for example, the modern ideas undermine 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 करते हैं. मॉडर्न आइडियाज जो है वो अंडरमाइन करते हैं. किसको? मॉडर्न आइडियाज अंडरमाइन ट्रेडिशनल बिलीफ्स and norms and are therefore seen as morally corrupt Some of those modern ideas are abortion, pornography, birth control measures. Do you think religious organizations would subscribe to the idea of contraceptives? Because when you use contraceptives, you are actually disturbing the nature. You are playing with nature. Understanding or not? Okay, so modern birth control measures, rights to women, homosexual rights, lesbian, gays, bisexuals, homosexual rights, divorce would not be acceptable to religious organizations, because when you marry, that marriage is made in heaven. Okay, and when you divorce because of feminism, the modern idea is ruining the traditional structure. Or I'm not saying that feminism is the only reason behind divorce, but feminism definitely is one of the reason, or may turn out to be one of the reason. Or not just feminism, it may even be individualism or highly instrumental orientation of the working professionals who are not so much concerned about their child or wife. Since their life is more about migrating from one pocket to another pocket, they are not able to give proper attention or to take enough care of their family members. And this may ruin their life. It is the modern idea which is ultimately ruining the lives of people. This is what religion would say. Okay. Live-in relationship would not be acceptable to them. These are all modern ideas. Female genital mutilation, yes, that is also not acceptable to them. See, although female genital mutilation is something that is told by religion only, that we should be doing this, that there should be female genital mutilation after some point of time, but that is something that is not valid or seen in across all the religions. Okay, last year only WHO came up with this report on 200 million girls who are victim of female genital mutilation. Okay, yes, that is also definitely one concern, because that is something which is governed by religious order. Okay, live in relationship, euthanasia, euthanasia. Okay, euthanasia would not be supported by religion. यूथनेसिया का मतलब क्या होता है कि आप मरना चाहते हो, मतलब कि वॉलंटरी सुसाइड, बेसिकली इट्स मोर लाइक it's a medical condition basically, when there is very little chance of you to get back to normal life, and if you appeal to the state or doctor or lawyer that I may be given death by pills or something like that, okay, so that I could uh, die happily and not die in pain, that is euthanasia. And this idea, although is very modern, would not be acceptable to religious organizations, because life is precious to them. Okay, suicide would not be acceptable. I mean, anything that is because of modernity, or is something that is unintentionally giving uh, unintentionally a result of modern ideas, would not be acceptable to them. Okay, if you are a traditional Sikh member of Khalsa, and if you shave your beard, would not be acceptable to them, because that is highly modern Western outlook that you are adopting now, and you are fallen Sikh. So there are many issues, okay, with fundamentalism. They do not accept modern ideas. thus thus fundamentalism is an unanticipated consequence of modernization and secularization. Modernization and secularization. Okay. Now, as far as cosmopolitanism is concerned, cosmopolitanism means whole world is one. There is no difference. Okay, so that way, you as an Indian can marry someone American. That is also cosmopolitanism. In the sense, cosmopolitanism means beyond these boundaries. You are freely living as an individual, not just as an American or Indian. Whole world is one family. Cosmopolitan. Okay. It's more like global citizen. Global citizen. You're not a citizen of just India or America. Global citizen. That is plural philosophy. Highly plural world. Okay. That would not be acceptable to fundamentalists. Okay, because the idea of pluralism is very much against the principles of fundamentalism, because fundamentalism is nothing but strict adherence to one idea, and cosmopolitanism is introducing us and making us accept multiple ideas as one. These are two very different ideas, conflicting ideas. Okay, so Religious organization would always have this kind of response that it is corrupting lifestyle. Like for example, if uh, uh, if American white marries black American, it is to Catholic Orthodox Catholic Church, would be highly unethical practice. It is against the nature, the order of nature. Okay, so this is what is all about the cause. Now, some more causes I would tell you. If you take a close look, you would realize that there are so many religions in the world: Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, but Buddhism, Jainism. But don't you have you not noticed that when it comes to fundamentalism, only few religions are noticeable, others are not? Have you not noticed this thing? I mean, religions are so many, but fundamentalism or fundamentalist groups are limited to few religions. Okay, why it happens? Why it happens? ऐसा क्यों होता है? ये समझना बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. इसमें समझना इसको बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. See, there is one thing. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं. There are new religions का वो बात नहीं है. नहीं नहीं नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. देखो, सिंपल सी बात है. सिंपल सी बात है. The religions which have tendency to develop fundamentalist nature, these are those religions which are Abrahamic, in the sense they are monolithic. Their text is one, only one. Islam, Quran. Christianity, Bible. क्या बात है? Do we have one text in Buddhism? Tripitaka. Tripitaka. Three texts. Do we have one text in Hinduism? One. Do we have one holy text? No. हमें नहीं पता, मुझे ही नहीं पता आज तक हिंदुइज्म में क्या क्या है, कौन सी टेक्स्ट है, कितनी टेक्स्ट है. भगवत गीता है, वेदा है, मनुस्मृति है, पता नहीं क्या क्या नहीं है. समझ नहीं आता कौन सा इसमें से हिंदू का है क्या नहीं. सभी सारे हिंदू का है. ठीक है. Now the fact is, whichever religion would be monolithic would be having higher tendency, or they are more likely to develop fundamentalist orientation. Sikhism, one holy text, and that is why you also see fundamentalism in Sikhism. Khalsa group, okay, highly fundamentalist. The fact is, when you have one book, one text, one monolithic text, the chances for literal interpretation becomes high. When you have multiple texts, there could not be single rigid interpretation, because multiple text, multiple leaders, multiple interpretations, and therefore no rigidity in interpretation. But when you have one text, high chances of development of rigidity. Understand? ठीक है. So, cause of fundamentalism: monolithic religions are highly likely to develop, or more likely to develop, fundamentalist tendencies. because of the obvious reason that they have one text. Okay. Third reason, common enemy. When 10 of us have one common enemy, this also fuels the rise of fundamentalist tendency, because since all 10 of us believe and have ideological cohesion across 10 seemingly different people, there is ideological cohesion of hatred towards one group. It actually channelizes all the hatred energy towards one group, instrumentalizes fundamentalist orientation amongst that group. Okay. When across different groups, USA, America, is regarded as common enemy. In Afghanistan, in Middle East, whole Middle East, you would see, to whole Middle East, America is portrayed as common enemy, their common enemy. Okay. Not just America, even Jews. And Jews and America are one and the same to them. Okay. So Israel, they would want to wipe off from the earth. So is the case with USA. They would want to wipe off USA. Okay. Common enemy. Next, Western imperialism is also one of the cause of fundamentalism. Western imperialism. Western imperialism, which means when you see countries like US and UK aggressively intervening in the domestic affairs of the Middle East, Middle Eastern pocket, that would also have unanticipated consequence in the form of rise of fundamentalist groups which are having their common enemy, that is USA. Okay. Next, which is last, globalization. Globalization was also one of the cause. Okay. See what has globalization done to the world. Globalization has, globalization has cut across time-space boundaries. That means we are now very much in closer contact with each other. It's very easy for me to access something from the other world. Only in the era of globalization, it becomes very easy for me, okay, to have a communication, to travel. These things have become easier. And when these things become easier, the spread of ideas also become easier. Those ideas that may develop tendency, which are fundamentalist. And for example, to give you one example, as I told you, there is one scholar, Samuel Huntington, who has talked about clash of civilization. Now he talked about clash of civilization. Why? He was actually, when he wrote this book, he was talking about 7 civilizations. There are 7 civilizations in the world. Okay. And when he talks about clash of civilizations, he was actually talking about Western civilizations versus Eastern civilizations. Western civilizations versus Eastern civilization. That is the clash of civilization. Okay. And that is nothing but West being adherent to one idea, East being adherent to another set of idea. And both ideas, when clash with each other, that is nothing but clash of fundamentalism. Two fundamentalist ideas clashing with each other. One is strict about idea of capitalism, democracy. Second, equally strict about idea of theocracy, feudalism. Okay, clash of civilization. Okay, so this was all about causes of fundamentalism. Now, what we have to remember, fundamentalism is important topic. Okay, and this will help you to write answers not just to fundamentalism but also help you to write answers to secularism, pluralism. There you can always talk about how fundamentalism is a threat to secularism. है कि नहीं? The question can come, fundamentalism is a threat to secularism. Fundamentalism is a threat to pluralism. Or pluralism is a prerequisite condition for the secularism. I mean, these kind of questions can also come, but you have to have fair idea. If you have fair idea about these things, you can easily write. Okay. The globalization should prevent clash as all are interdependent. नहीं 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 ऐसे नहीं ना भाई. Globalization is rapidly spreading modern ideas. Rapidly, the same modern ideas against which Ayatollah Khomeini came out, the same modern ideas are now rapidly being transmitted from one pocket to another pocket, and therefore we now also have rapid recurrence or occurrence of fundamentalist clashes. After every 1 or 2 years, you would now see clash of groups that are labeled as fundamentalist, okay, against Western imperialist tendency. That is not regarded as fundamentalist. That is not regarded as fundamentalist, but what they are doing is regarded as fundamentalist. Okay, see, तुम एक चीज को समझो, बड़ी बेसिक चीज है मैं जो तुम्हें बताने जा रहा हूं. Both the groups are those people who are equally engaged in spreading their ideas, whether it is Western, whether it is modern idea, whether it is religion. Both groups are engaged in spreading their ideas. One group is called as fundamentalist, other is not. And both are equally vehement and equally rigid about their notions being perfect. Understanding or not? Both are equally having unwavering set of commitment towards that ideology. One to one that is modern, to one that is traditional. But media would stereotype these set of people only as fundamentalist, only these set of people as threat to the fabric of democracies, threat to the fabric of humanity, threat to the fabric of cosmopolitanism, because media is also owned by America. The world media is owned by, run by 7 biggest media conglomerates, which is run by America. And when we accept those things as common sense, that is what the victory of cultural hegemony is, according to Gramsci. So these things are very much connected to each other. That is why I told you initially that there is no objective reality in this world. Just that we have been made to feel that there is objective reality through different instruments, whether it is education, whether it is media. We accept few things as common sense and start rejecting other things as nonsense. But that is what the success of modernity is. That is also conversion. We are converted every day. Okay, not just religiously, we are also converted into modern lifestyle. Okay, can secular person be fundamentalist? हाँ है ना. There is one concept called as secular fundamentalism. There is one concept called as secular fundamentalism. And this is given by Grace Davy. वही डेवी जिसने बिलीविंग विदाउट बिलोंगिंग बताया था हमें. Secular fundamentalism. What is secular fundamentalism? Secular fundamentalism means when you accept a specific form of idea that seems highly modern, but you are highly rigid about it. The same thing which I was talking about. When you are highly rigid about those modern ideas, for example, the idea of ultra nationalist philosophy, ultra nationalism, what we call today as ultra nationalism, okay, unwavering commitment to the nationalism. So if you do not obey, you are anti-nationalist. That is also fundamentalism. If you do not obey, you are anti-nationalist. The same tendency. If you do not obey, you are heretic, and you will be sent to prison or you will be executed. The same thing is now being done by modern nation states. If you do not obey, you are anti-nationalist. The same thing is now being done by Supreme Courts. If you do not obey, contempt of court. There is no difference between what the old church was doing and the new modern court does. The only thing is that the new modern court is nothing but secular form of the church. सेक्युलर अवतार है वो चर्च का ही. कंटेम्प्ट ऑफ कोर्ट और हेरेसी में कोई डिफरेंस नहीं, एक्ट वही है. Is there any difference between contempt of court and heresy? This is secular fundamentalism. जब ऐसा दिमाग जब चलता है, जब ऐसे सोचते हो दुनिया को, तब दिमाग है, तब मतलब खुला है दिमाग आपका. कन्फाइंस में रह के नहीं सोचना है उल्टी बस वो रिलीजियस ही वो लिखना है. सारे फॉर्म आपको लिखने हैं, आपको मैक्सिमम डायमेंशंस दिखाने हैं. बट डेमोक्रेसी इज ओपन टू चेंजेस देन हाउ वेल. ये बहुत ब्रॉड आइडिया है शिवम, मतलब ये बहुत ही ब्रॉड आइडिया है. आप सोचो ना, मतलब डेमोक्रेसी क्या होता है. अगर डेमोक्रेसी ओपन टू चेंजेस है तो फ्लॉड डेमोक्रेसी क्या होता है. आई मीन ये बहुत वेग सेंटेंस होते हैं कि भाई इंडिया को पुअर डेमोक्रेसी बोलना, फिर वो क्यों बोला जा रहा है अगर डेमोक्रेसी ओपन टू चेंज है. आई मीन वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू हैव कॉन्वर्सेशन ऑन दीज स्टेटमेंट्स. ठीक है, चलो. So this was all about Pegasus. You know what is the latent function of surveillance? Surveillance का latent function, do you know? The latent function of surveillance is to ensure that people conform, only conform, and do not challenge. The latent function of surveillance is to produce docile bodies. Latent function of surveillance is to produce docile, very important word, bodies. What is docile body? Docile मतलब जिसको आप मोल्ड कर सकते हो अपने हिसाब से. A body that can be molded according to your wish, without letting that body know that you want him to change. This is what Pegasus or any surveillance idea does. See, for example, today, just to give you one question that you can ponder over after this class. When you go out on the road, you see red light and you stop automatically without police wala. Even if police wala is not there, you stop. Why? This is what surveillance does. Surveillance create bodies that will automatically start conforming and do not try to disobey the laws and do not try to bring change. This is the idea of latent function of surveillance. ये latent function है. Yes, Foucault. This was given by Michel Foucault. ये आगे जाके बताऊंगा, अभी नहीं बता रहा मैं. This is an idea given by Michel Foucault. And when we say that democracy is open to change, we are forgetting that all the modern democracies today have become surveillance societies. And when democracies are becoming surveillance societies, that means they are more and more becoming unflexible towards change and more rigid about production of docile bodies who are conformist. That means gradually there would be no difference between democracy, autocracy, theocracy, and therefore this is nothing but end of ideology that we are living in, according to a scholar Daniel Bell, which I will tell you later on. Okay, so आज के लिए इतना बहुत ही. बाकी I wish you all the best for tomorrow's test. Okay, try not to take more than given time. Remember, you have to write the test in 1.5 hours, but you may take 2 hours. You may take 2 hours. Okay, at max you may take 2 hours. But if you are taking more than 2 hours, be honest to yourself, be very honest to yourself, and do not submit the paper. सीधी सी बात है. 2 घंटे से ऊपर ले रहे हो, पेपर सबमिट मत करना. Be honest to yourself. Okay, 2 घंटे लेने तो लो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. बिकॉज हमारा आइडिया क्या है कि आप अपना जो दिमाग है उसको चलाओ मैक्सिमम विद इन मिनिमम टाइम. बट उसका ये मतलब नहीं कि आप गिवन टाइम में भी एक्स्ट्रा टाइम से ज्यादा ऊपर चल जाओ. ठीक है, यू कैन टेक 2 hours, नो इशू. बियॉन्ड 2 hours, डू नॉट सबमिट. यू कैन राइट फॉर योर पर्पस, बट डू नॉट सबमिट दैट पेपर देन. ओके, सो दिस इज व्हाट आई वांटेड टू से. ठीक है, बाकी आप उसको अच्छे से क्वेश्चन को समझो, उसका एप्लीकेशन जो है वो समझना, डिमांड समझना अच्छे से, एंड खुल के सोचना, खुलकर. Don't write like a common man. Okay, sociology is the only discipline where you will have common sense versus sociology. In the sense, in no other discipline you have any topic like common sense versus political science, common sense versus psychology. Okay, this is why that is given so much of importance. Sociological thinking is very different from common sensical. Okay, so वैसे ही लिखना आप. Okay, चलो, all the best.